Hi folks, this is Cian here from Eco Encounters. You're very welcome to this episode, which is all about corvids. That is, of course, the group of birds that includes crows, rooks, jackdaws, jays, and other birds that are a little bit similar. This is actually a fascinating group of birds. Not that many people seem to pay much attention to them because we see them all around the place all the time. They're actually astonishing birds that have a really complicated social hierarchy. They're very intelligent as well, and for that reason, because they're just all around us and we can see them quite easily, we're going to focus on those in this video, because this is something that you can do even when you're on lockdown and you can't really get out and about, because you can probably see them on any given day in your garden or out your window or on your street. I've decided to focus on corvids for this lesson because number one, they're extremely common and it's likely that you can see lots of them even from your house or garden or on a little walk. And number two, because they're extremely smart birds that are fascinating to watch. So let's point out some of the corvids that you're likely to see around. Most of these birds do well living alongside humans, so we do tend to see them in our neighbourhoods rather a lot. If you've got any binoculars around the house, even small ones, that's helpful, but if not, no problem. Corvids are pretty big, and you should be able to spot them and the differences between them with your own two eyes. Now, a lot of people call any of these corvids a crow. Well, this one is a crow. You can tell by the grey jacket it's wearing that this one is a hooded crow. These are common if you're in Ireland or Scotland. They eat a pretty wide variety of things, and that's why they can live alongside humans, as we tend to produce a lot of waste that they can eat. If you're near the coast, you might see them dropping shellfish from up high, so that the shells smash and they can eat the soft animals inside. This is something that young crows seem to have to learn about from grown-ups. And that gives us a clue that corvids can have complicated family and social systems. Hooded crows in particular do tend to live in groups. Some clever crows can even learn to drop nuts on roads where cars will drive over them to break them open. If you're in other parts of the UK, instead of hooded crows you're likely to see the carrion crow. Now they look like almost the same bird, but without the grey jacket. For a long time, scientists thought they were different varieties of the same species, but we now classify them as being two different species. Their name tells us that they will indeed sometimes eat dead animals, though they often eat insects, worms, seeds or fruit as well. Like hooded crows, they're not scared of humans, so they do benefit from the scraps that we tend to leave behind us. The fact that hooded crows and carrion crows are not often found living in the same place shows us that their needs must be very similar, so that one species tends to push out the other. Carrion crows prefer to live largely by themselves, unlike the sociable hooded crows. Jackdaws can be a little harder to tell apart from carrion crows, but in general they're smaller with a grey patch about the neck and the top of the head, and a pale, often blue eye that marks them out. They are known to be extremely clever, with even problem-solving intelligence, and they are one of the few animals we know of that can identify individual humans. My favourite corvid is the rook. These are extremely sociable birds. You know when there are rooks about, as they tend to nest together in structures called rookeries in very large numbers, and they're super noisy too. They make large, messy nests from big twigs right at the top of trees. Rooks can be recognised because they have a big bare grey patch around their faces, and they have puffy feathery areas around their legs that kind of make them look as if they're wearing baggy trousers. As a group, corvids overall are some of the smartest animals we know, or at least they have a particular kind of intelligence similar to ours, so we can identify it more easily. In many ways, corvids are good at the same kind of things that humans are. I once worked with a captive raven that could do puzzles in order to get access to food. School children would create complicated puzzles with the food hidden inside, but the clever animal never took more than a few seconds to solve the puzzle and get to the food. Other corvids are even known to make their own tools, like special hooks to forage for food. And like humans, corvids need to stay entertained and busy, so they do benefit from doing puzzles like this. It's good for them. It is thought that corvids are intelligent in some of the same way that apes are. For example, we know that they can even think and plan ahead when given puzzles that have lots of different steps to them. In the spring, you might start to see the same corvids sticking to the same areas. It can be a little tricky to learn how to recognize individuals, of course, but if you keep watching over several days, you might be able to do it. They're defending their territory, so you'll see them flying back and forth in the same directions, carrying twigs for building nests. And when another crow gets too close to their space, you might see a fight between them. A fight that is usually noisy and can be heard from very far away. Well, our first follow-up activity is a very simple one. I'd like you to see if you can spot some corvids wherever you are. Even in the middle of a city, or without a garden, you're still likely to be able to see them. On the web page for this lesson, I've included a simple spotter's sheet for different kinds of corvids. You could print one off and tick the ones you see, or load it up on a phone before maybe going for a little walk. Corvids are fun to spot once you can tell them apart. Next, we're going to make some simple art to help us learn how to tell the corvids apart. This is going to be good and messy, so first we paint one of our hands black and make a handprint. Then we cut around the handprint to make a sort of collage. Now we add some extra colours to make the different corvids. Some grey on the neck for the jackdaw, and around the beak for the rook, and around the body for the hooded crow. Whereas the carrion crow stays mostly black. We can use some other bits and pieces also to help make them look more fun and friendly. Well, thanks for watching this Eco Encounters lesson. There's a lesson plan as well as extra information relating to it on our webpage. See you next time.